McGill with the Youth Justice Coalition. I'm an organizer there. The Youth Justice Coalition is led by people who've been incarcerated or are still incarcerated and our family members. We're challenging mass incarceration of Black and brown people, including the school-to-jail track and everything else that feeds into our addiction to incarceration. Well, like everybody at the YJC, I came to the work through the system. I was arrested at 12 and 13, and then those were felony arrests, and then had several misdemeanors after that as a youth and an adult, and have spent time detained and incarcerated, and of course going through court. Came together with other people that had similar experiences to challenge California, especially LA County, where we lead the world in the lockup of both young people and adults, with the largest juvenile hall system in the world, the largest probation department in the world, the largest sheriff's department in the world, and the largest county jail system in the world. I think it's such a luxury to have organizers all over the country that you rarely get to connect with. So the most important aspect of all of these gatherings is to connect with other direct action organizers. Try to build a stronger movement beyond our local areas, beyond our states, across the nation. I think that it's gaining momentum and getting victories against all odds. But I don't think there's been many times in history where there's been less respect and less support for direct action organizing. I think people like to lift up the work of Dr. King or Ella Baker or Malcolm X or Harriet Tubman or Cesar Chavez, et cetera, and talk about the change that's happened in the past in history, but rarely acknowledge that it's direct action organizers. All those folks were direct action organizers, and it's movement building through direct action organizing that's made that change. So we continue to expect results without investing in the work that makes it happen. And so I think that there's a tension in the nation right now between people that would have us reform the system versus people that would have us dismantle unjust systems, racist systems, and build something better for our communities. And unfortunately, the vision about dismantling unjust systems and building something better is oftentimes drowned out. So my hope is that as organizers get together, we can build stronger strategies, stronger tactics, and be more successful in pushing past the barriers that seem to get, I don't know, it's not very clear, but anyway, that as we come together, we can build a stronger movement across the nation. Well, obviously we can't talk about having justice in the United States without addressing white supremacy, dismantling white supremacy, dismantling racism, dismantling sexism, heterosexism, patriarchy. We know that white supremacy and patriarchy work hand in hand too, so that one doesn't exist without the other holding it up. Our economic system obviously is based on exploitation and slavery, so addressing capitalism and its history and promoting genocide and slavery both within our boundaries as well as across the world. And so I think that's the obvious, what has to be done to really create a just world and a just nation. I think as a way stepping forward with that, recognizing that the prison system is an extension of the slavery system and the genocide of Native peoples. So not having a reform-minded practice around how can we make jails more humane, how can we create gender-responsive prisons, how can we create better supports for young people that are on that school-to-jail track, as opposed to what we really should be focusing on is how do we abolish the prison industrial complex, how do we abolish militarized policing, how do we shift resources back from our addiction to incarceration and suppression to communities, how do we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to live here as equal people, regardless of whether or not they have documents, regardless of where they were born, regardless of the skin color, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their gender. I think those are things that we have to focus on if we want justice. I hope that the organizers that are here that spent a lot of time getting talked to and talked at take over the space for themselves and gain what they need to go home with, because it's an amazing opportunity to connect with other organizers. So I know tonight and tomorrow there's time for people to get together. And frankly, I just hope they take over the space and create a space that's good for organizers. So that the people doing the work, the people most impacted by injustice, the people that are freeing people locally and across the country, get lifted up as the leaders and are able to build with each other for a change. Don't look at the rhetoric of organizers and history. Study the tactics and the strategies. Seek those elders out in the community that are still there, that made amazing gains in the 70s, the 60s, the 40s, the 30s. Seek those people out and gain all their wisdom. We aren't passing down to the next generation the successes we've had in the past. So each generation finds itself reinventing the tools, the tactics, the strategies. Have a bold vision. Don't have your vision limited by your funder or your neighbor or the politician in your area that has the biggest voice. Don't be afraid of standing up to police and military and prison systems. I know that organizers, we often find ourselves alone in the midst of crazy chaos and huge militarization. And it sometimes feels like we're doing the work without support. So seek out other organizers across the country, across the world. Seek out freedom fighters, both historically and currently, and be bold with your actions and your vision. I think I disagree with a lot of people that self-care should be our #1 priority. I think that as we win in terms of justice, that does more to heal us than almost anything else we are engaged in. I can only speak for myself. It's been true for me. While we face amazing trauma and loss and damaging events in our own nation, what we endure in the United States is small in comparison to what people endure in other parts of the world that stand up and fight back. And I think sometimes we can get overwhelmed by the sense of exhaustion or frustration or humiliation that we experience. But because of that, I think I see a lot of really brilliant people leave organizing. But I think organizing is the most important work we can do in our lives. I think it's the most essential work because it's freedom fighter work. It's not some kind of science that's separated from the ground. It is the ground. It's not talking for people or about people or studying people. It's about living and being of the people. And so I think that I don't think for most of us organizing's an occupation or a choice. It's something that we have to do, not only for ourselves, our own liberation, our family's liberation, but for our community. So for all those reasons, I think that the movement, if we build a strong movement, then the movement can feed us, and the movement can clothe us, the movement can heal us. If we keep trying to do this work separate from ourselves, if we keep trying to see it like this is our work life, and then we have our separate life, then we're not really creating a movement identity and a movement structure that will take care of us or take care of others.